In 1917, during the First World War, Corporals Blake and Schofield are sleeping under a tree when a sergeant wakes them up and orders Blake to select another soldier and report to his commander. Blake grabs Schofield and they go into the trenches, wondering what they've been assigned to accomplish. Blake hopes to get home before Christmas. They arrive at General Erinmore's office. He assigns them an extremely critical mission. They need to cross over former German land after they have retreated in order to deliver an extremely important message to Colonel Mackenzie, who is pursuing the retreating Germans in order to kill them. Erinmore explains that this is a mistake. The Germans are luring the British forces into a trap, and they will be slaughtered. Erinmore chosen Blake because his brother is part of the attacking squad, and this mission risks his life. Blake, determined to save his brother, eagerly agrees to the highly dangerous mission. Blake and Schofield immediately travel through the trenches until they find Lieutenant Leslie and give him orders to cross. Leslie thinks it's crazy, but he gives them advice on how to get through the former German line. He gives them a flare gun to let them know they've survived, if they make it. Blake and Schofield make their way through vacant battlefields filled with wire and muddy trenches, culminating in a vast super trench filled with mud and bodies. Schofield's hand gets caught in the spiked wire, hurting it severely. He wraps the injury and moves onward. Eventually, the two complete the crossing and arrive at the German trenches, which are empty and abandoned. When they enter the underground, they discover that the German barracks are vacant and filled with rats. Blake discovers a tripwire, and before they can respond, one of the rats crosses the wire, resulting in a massive explosion that buries them underground. Schofield is completely buried, but Blake is able to get him up and help him out so they can leave before the entire barracks fall. Schofield is furious after leaving and asks Blake why he chose him to be on this mission. Blake explains that he thought they were going on a food run and never expected it to be this mission. Blake launches the flare. They keep going and arrive at a green area. Schofield informs Blake that they'll likely receive a medal for this. Blake says it'll be wonderful because Schofield lost his previous one, but Schofield claims he didn't lose it, but rather swapped it for wine. Blake is surprised that he did not take the medal home, but Schofield explains that he hated leaving before. The two discover cherry blossoms. Blake is familiar with them, having harvested cherries with his brother in his mother's orchard. They then discover a home in the field. When they check the house, they find no one in. Schofield discovers a fresh milk, which he fills his water flask with milk he finds in a bucket. The two soldiers watch a dogfight in the air involving 3 planes, which ends with the British shooting down the German plane, which heads directly for them. They rush out of the way as it crashes and rescue the burning German pilot from the cockpit. Schofield suggests putting him out of his suffering, but Blake orders Schofield to get him water. As he moves, the German cruelly stabs Blake in the gut. Schofield shoots the German and hurriedly tries to stitch up Blake and move him, but it is too late. Blake starts bleeding and asks Schofield to write to his mother and tell her he isn't scared. Schofield promises him that he will complete the assignment before Blake dies. After a while, more British soldiers arrive. Captain Smith informs Schofield that they are traveling through and can show him some of the route to his targets. He tells Schofield to not focus on his friend's death. Schofield rides in the back of a truck with a group of wild soldiers. When the truck becomes stuck in the mud, he leads the way in pushing it. He explains his goal when they return inside. Schofield is dumped off a river that he must cross in order to reach his target, and he comes under fire. He is able to make it into the building where the shooter is, and the two shoot each other. Schofield kills the German, but gets hit in the helmet and knocked unconscious. When he wakes up, it is night, and the town is lit up by fire. He dodges gunfire as he runs through the burning town, eventually stopping to shelter in a building where he discovers Laurie, a woman who only knows French and is hiding in fear. Schofield speaks French and informs her that he is not German. She pays attention to some of his wounds and admits that she is watching over a baby. Schofield feeds it some of his milk, and Laurie says she has no idea who its parents are. She begs him to stay with them, but he says he has to finish his mission. He goes back to the conflicts, forced to kill and flee in order to survive. After being shot at, he falls down a cliff into a river, where he fights for survival. Eventually, the river calms and he reaches land, where he sobs. He keeps going till he hears singing and sees a group of troops gathered around listening to another singer. He sits and listens, then tells a soldier that he is looking for the second one. The soldier identifies them and informs him that they are following the larger group. Schofield goes forward into the trenches, asking someone to listen to him and not go forward with the attack, but no one will. It's too late, the battle has begun, and the first wave is sent. Schofield realizes that the only way to reach Mackenzie quickly is to run sideways across the active battlefield rather than take the trenches. He survives and goes to the trenches, where he meets Colonel Mackenzie, who initially refuses to listen to him, in disbelief and believing that they are about to defeat the Germans. Schofield begs him to read the letter, which he ultimately does, and then tells his soldiers to stand down. Schofield walks to the medical facility's tents to look for Blake's sibling. He ultimately discovers him, uninjured. Schofield tells him the horrible news about his brother and gives him some of his items that he brought with him. Blake is upset, but he pulls himself together and tells Schofield to grab some food for himself. Schofield asks if he can write to their mother, and he agrees. He tells Blake that his brother has saved his life. The two shake hands, and Schofield leaves searching for a tree to sit under. He takes out a photograph of his wife and children, stares at them, and then closes his eyes.